there's been some regulatory FUD recently. Maybe that's how some would describe it. Others would describe it as, look, there's some real regulatory threats and headwinds that are facing this industry. What's your take on some of the regulatory stuff that's going on in the US? Is this FUD? Is it real? Does crypto come out stronger, or is this going to be bad for crypto?
My one word answer is noise. It's just noise. We know there's going to be regulation, and we know that they have to adapt to this new thing into the system, and they know that they have to get their fair share of taxes, and there's no chance that they can get rid of it because of the scale of which it's growing. It's almost impossible. So regulation is going to be part of our lives for the next 30 years in crypto. It will keep changing. Some will be bad regulation, some will be good regulation, but over time, it's not going away. And it's fine. It'll in fact drive adoption.
Are there any
right now? I don't know if I can set up a business with a certain type of token and end up going to prison because it's a security. It's ridiculous.
It is.
Raoul, do you have any opinions as to how crypto is going to touch people first? Like, what is going to be the thing that really onboards a billion people onto social tokens?
Without question, because we're all members of these communities. Some of these communities are massive, global pop stars, global sports franchises. Some of these have absolutely enormous communities of which people want to participate in. Once you solve the wallet thing, people will just very, very naturally become community owners.
So does this mean everyone with the community launches some sort of social token and or NFT?
Yes, without question, because even small groups of people can coalesce around that, and you will have a number of these things, and therefore you're participating in a community of which, if you add value to the community, the value of that token goes up. It becomes a great behavioral incentive, and it becomes part of your asset base. It's really clever. It drives really vibrant communities, and it's very powerful, I think.
I know you spent a lot of time in the macro, but do you have any other projects on your radar, crypto related or maybe even otherwise?
Yes, I'm doing something I can't talk about yet in this community token space. I'm working on that. I'm also working on something else to drive the ability for people to asset allocate over extended periods of time, because there's still not enough vehicles. There's kind of the ETF we're all waiting for. There's a bunch of VC funds. There's a bunch of things missing from the space that people are used to from the traditional financial space. So I'm actually working on some stuff with that. And there's a whole lot of, there's a lot of things I can't talk about that I'm working on that the space just doesn't have yet. And that's great. And there's so much opportunity to do stuff, whether it's with Real Vision, with what we're doing, or other stuff that I'm doing on the side. And, I think if I speak to any of you guys, everyone's going to say, God, I've got so much going on. Why? Because it's exciting. There's a lot of opportunity. And, one of you could be in DeFi, and somebody else is in NFTs, and somebody else is doing payment systems. It's fantastic, right? That's what's so exciting.
Raoul, historically, this industry has moved in cycles. Every 4 years, there seems to be a boom bust cycle. Bitcoiners believe that this is aligned with the halvening. Do you think that pattern of cycles, the cyclical nature of boom and bust nature of crypto, is that going to continue? Or is this going to change now that we've kind of elevated ourselves into the mainstream?
I think cycles morph and change over time. But humans, by definition, tend to be cyclical in what we do. GDP is cyclical, credit is cyclical, equities are cyclical, commodities are cyclical. So there's something inherent within how humans get excessively pessimistic and excessively optimistic, that it's cyclical. Is it driven by the halvening? Probably. Will that continue in due course? Maybe not. But there'll still be a cyclicality, and it'll keep moving around. If you look at the GDP cycle, it used to be kind of every 3 years, peak, trough, peak, trough, peak, trough. Then we got to modern central banking, and it started being like a 4-year cycle. And then we've seen the last one was a significant period of time, 2009 till 2020, 11 years.
How about end of 2021? Take us there. So do you have any price predictions? Let's do Bitcoin and Ether.
My price prediction has been ETH north of 20,000.
Wow.
And that's pretty simple. All I did is just map over the ETH chart to the Bitcoin 2017 chart. They work perfectly. and it gives you 20,000. So, there's no great science to that, but it feels about right. I've also mapped the Bitcoin price versus Bitcoin 2013. They look pretty similar. And there's a bunch of other ways I do it with Bitcoin, with log charts and regression analysis, stuff like that. Generally speaking, I think it's somewhere between 250 to 400,000, with an outside chance of 1 million if we get an extended cycle.
We're talking the end of 2021, or are we talking longer term than that?
End of 2021, March 2022, something like that.
Wow.
Don't forget that they usually go up 5 to 10x in the last 3 months of the year. So, we haven't even got to the all-time high, but let's say Bitcoin goes up, 5x from the 60,000 high. That's 350. That'd be very normal rally for year end, considering we're about to have an ETF. And if I'm right, we might see the central bank pivoting to more printing. They may not print more money this year, but they'll start talking about it. Those two things alone are enough to drive Bitcoin to 350, 5x from here.
You do think we're about to have a Bitcoin ETF then? Gary Gensler's going to
without question. It's probably coming in October.
Fantastic. Raoul, I want to end with this question. It's always a pleasure to have you on Bankless. We got to do this more. So many Bankless listeners said, "Hey, I love Bankless. I love Raoul. Now you guys are doing a podcast together. It's like blowing my mind." So I think we have some kindred spirits in both of our communities, and you guys have grown a fantastic community. But I was impressed with something. It stuck with me at the end of our last episode when we asked you about, hey, the next 10 years, and you were talking about how you think there's global inequality. There's all sorts of political macro forces. Wage increases haven't increased. It's going to be a rocky decade, is what you said. I want to ask you maybe something hopeful about that. Tell me, what is the most hopeful way we can come out on the other side of this rocky decade?
My view has become somewhat different. Those factors are not going away. But we've got something else that I call the exponential age that's come into the middle of this. Over the next 10 years, we're already, all of us, dealing with this crypto exponentiality, right? We're starting to get our heads around what exponentiality means. When I say crypto goes up 5x in the last 3 months of the year, you kind of laugh, but you think, yeah, it's possible, right? That's understanding.
I definitely do.
That's what exponential means, right? We're starting to get our heads around this. But we've got, all at the same time, the largest confluence of technologies that are all into maturity, i.e. the exponential stage. That's AI, robotics, genetic sciences, EVs, green energy. We have distributed computing power, Internet of Things, wearable technology. There's autonomous vehicles. There's a whole bunch of these things that are game-changing. Literally, we can't get our heads around what this all means. And it's all going to happen at the same time. Now, there is a decent probability that changes the trend rate of growth finally. And then there is another probability that if you stick any money into any of these things, you can make some real returns, some really gigantic returns.